The rain fell in heavy sheets the night everything changed, hammering the rusting tin roof of Ethan Cole's tiny two-room home like the sky itself had lost patience with his life. He sat on the splintered floor beside his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, tightening the laces of her worn shoes, while the single flickering bulb above them cast long shadows that trembled with each gust of wind. The world felt cold, unjust, and impossibly heavy. But nothing prepared him for the moment he would step into a stranger's mansion and see a framed photograph of his late wife smiling on the marble fireplace. The same smile that had once lit up his entire life. That moment would crack open everything he thought he knew. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of unexpected miracles, please like, comment, share, and subscribe, and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Ethan had been living on scraps of hope since the day his wife Hannah passed away unexpectedly. She had been the heart of their small family, a nurse who worked long shifts, yet always came home with a smile, carrying small handmade gifts for Lily and warm hugs for Ethan. Losing her felt like someone had reached into his chest and hollowed out the most important part of him. Since then, life spiraled into survival mode. Days blurred into nights at the mechanic shop where he worked to pay for rent, food, and Lily's school fees. People often dismissed him as just another struggling single dad. But deep inside he carried storms no one saw. Grief, guilt, fear, and the crushing weight of raising a child alone. Yet he did everything with quiet determination because Lily deserved a life untouched by the harshness he fought every day. One morning after walking Lily to school, Ethan headed toward his job only to learn that the shop was shutting down. The owner apologized, explained the debts, and placed a final envelope of salary in his hands. Ethan stood silently in the doorway as the shutters rolled down for the last time. He felt the world tilt sideways. Rent was overdue. Food supplies were low. Lily needed new textbooks. Life, which had already taken too much from him, seemed to be reaching for the last bit of stability he had left. He spent the next days searching for work everywhere, construction sites, delivery jobs, even temporary labor, only to face rejection after rejection. His family's situation became desperate. Just when things seemed hopeless, a local charity announced they were selecting one needy family for a special assistance grant funded by a billionaire named Alexander Grant. A man whose wealth and success were legendary, but whose private life was shrouded in mystery. Neighbors whispered about his intimidating personality, his strict security, and the towering mansion he owned outside town. Despite the fear and uncertainty, Ethan applied, not for himself, but for Lily. He filled the forms, wrote their story, and prayed silently. That a week later, he was shocked when he received a letter congratulating him. He had been selected. The instructions said he needed to meet Mr. Grant personally at his mansion for the final approval. Ethan felt a tremor of gratitude, but also nervousness. Billionaires didn't live in his world. He wasn't sure how to act, what to say, or whether he even belonged near someone like Alexander Grant. But for Lily, he would cross oceans. So he wore his cleanest shirt, held Lily's hand, and traveled to the massive gates guarded by stone lions and tall trees that looked older than time. The mansion looked like something carved from a dream, tall pillars, shimmering windows, and a long driveway lined with roses. Inside, the air smelled of polished wood and old money. Ethan felt small, insignificant, like a visitor from another universe. Servants guided him through wide hallways until he reached a grand living room with high ceilings and elegant chandeliers. That was when his breath caught in his throat. There, above the marble fireplace, was a large framed photograph of his wife Hannah. The very same picture he had kept in his wallet for years. Her gentle smile, her bright eyes, the slight tilt of her head. There was no mistake. It was her. His knees almost gave out from shock. His heart pounded painfully, confusion and fear rising like a tidal wave. Why was his wife's picture displayed like a cherished memory in a billionaire's mansion? He had never heard her mention knowing anyone wealthy. She had lived a simple, humble life. For a moment, it felt as if the ground beneath him dissolved. Memories flashed. Her late nights at work, mysterious phone calls she never talked about, moments when he assumed she was simply tired. Questions he never thought to ask now pierced him with a frightening sharpness. Just then, Alexander Grant entered the room, tall, composed, and dressed in a tailored suit. He looked every bit the powerful man rumors described. Ethan expected anger, judgment, or maybe indifference. But instead, Alexander's eyes softened the moment he saw the picture Ethan was staring at. He walked slowly toward it, his expression changing into something Ethan couldn't understand. Grief, admiration, and deep sorrow all woven together. Ethan's heart raced. Nothing made sense. Alexander's voice was calm but heavy. And as he spoke, Arn felt his world shift again. Hannah had once saved Alexander's life years ago during an accident when she was a young nursing volunteer. He had been alone, trapped, injured, and nearly unconscious. But Hannah, who wasn't even on duty that day, had passed by, noticed him, and acted quickly, giving him first aid until paramedics arrived. Alexander never forgot her courage. He had searched for her for years, wanting to thank her properly, but she had moved, changed jobs, and disappeared from public records. By the time he finally traced her, she had already passed away. The photograph was his tribute to the woman who gave him a second chance at life. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. Not pain, but something softer. He had never known this part of Hannah's life. She had been humble, never sharing her acts of heroism. To hear a billionaire speak of her with such reverence made him realize how much deeper her goodness ran than he had ever imagined. But Alexander wasn't done. He admitted that the charity program wasn't random. He had seen Hannah's name on Ethan's application, recognized it instantly, and realized fate had brought him the chance to repay the woman who once saved him by helping the family she left behind. In the days that followed, everything began to change. Alexander personally ensured Lily received full education support, better medical care, and even enrolled Ethan in a training program that opened doors to stable work opportunities. Ethan, who once felt trapped in endless darkness, suddenly saw a rays of hope piercing through. But what touched him most wasn't the money or the opportunities. It was the kindness behind them. Alexander visited often, forming a bond with Lily, seeing in her the same light Hannah once carried. Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years. He felt seen, valued, lifted. Slowly, the heaviness of grief began to ease. The memories of Hannah, once painful reminders of loss, began to glow softly with pride. Ethan realized that his wife had left more behind than he knew. Her compassion had rippled into the life of a man whose gratitude now ensured the daughter would never have to face the same struggles. Life had an unexpected rhythm, and sometimes the very person you save comes back years later to save you. Ethan's journey wasn't just about receiving help. It was about rediscovering the power of compassion, the hidden threads of fate, and the truth that kindness never dies. It returns in ways beyond imagination. That if this story touched your heart even a little, please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your engagement helps more emotional stories reach wonderful people like you. Please comment below. If Hannah were watching from above, what message do you think she'd send to Ethan and Lily? And so, under a sky no longer filled with storms but hope, Ethan walked forward with Lily by his side, knowing that sometimes life breaks you only so it can rebuild you into someone stronger, someone who can finally see the miracles waiting in the shadows.